So we all really know about, at this point, considering how much Mick Lynch content that I've covered on this channel, we all know about the ticket office closures. And we've discussed about how the fact that this is just neoliberalism writ large, where there is no social utility to anything, it's only ever really about profit. The fact that it's a desire to spite the RMT by trying to make a load of their members redundant through the service no longer being provided. And the fact that this is a barrier for like older people who aren't online from being able to engage in the rail network. There is a large part of this as well, the closure of the ticket stations, that affects disabled people. Now, really and truly, disabled people are some of the most discriminated against people in our society. We do not have a society in general. Up until very recently, they even cared about the disabled at all. At least nowadays, they're at least at the forefront of a kind of political discussion. But the Conservatives at this just don't care. They don't care because they're not swing voters, because they know that they're only ever going to vote for the Labour Party, or at least a nominally left-wing party. So disabled people get completely written out of the Conservatives' policy platform. And of course, they need sometimes to be able to get more access on stations, which involves more station staff, a bunch of the people who they want to get compulsory redundancies for in this RMT deal that's going on. And a lot of people with other kind of disabilities, like invisible ones, will want to be able to have access to the ticket office for things like advice, discussions, being able to ask someone who is there for help, etc., etc. Now, all of these provisions are going to be going away if the ticket office is closed, which just shows you the innate level of contempt that the Conservative government has for the disabled. And this is obviously nothing new. We saw in the coalition government, there was a United Nations probe into violation of disabled people's human rights in the UK due to cutting of benefit, the cutting of the social welfare that was available and allocated for disabled people, the work capability assessments that were there to humiliate disabled people, to try and take them out of the welfare system by essentially using them as red meat for the kind of the anti-welfare hawks who tried to claim that there was this huge section of disabled people who were deliberately faking their disability to try and get out of work, which of course was always a lie. That was always sold a lie to try and focus people on people in poverty, people who are unable to participate in the general society that we live in, rather than, you know, billionaires, millionaires, the bankers who caused the crisis in the first place that led to the austerity of that period. So there's nothing new. The Conservatives deliberately and almost kind of maliciously targeting disabled people, but I thought it'd be worth just having a look into the ways in which specifically the ticket office closures are going to affect the disabled. So let's have a look. There's because Channel 4 just released a bit about closing ticket station offices are going to affect people with disabilities. So let's watch.
Public transport is often the only way for disabled people to travel independently. It's how I get around the country. But my world might be about to get a whole lot smaller. Over the past few weeks, train operators have been carrying out a consultation to close down ticket offices and move staff onto station platforms. It could mean train station ticket offices will close across England if approved. Out of the 1,007 train stations that still have a ticket office, 974 of them could see their offices shut, or their staffing levels and opening times reduced.
It's interesting to see as well, you see RMT have been tweeting out a lot of these things. They've been doing excellent work on this, really and truly. If we want a movement that's going to represent the interests of disabled people, it's going to come from the trade unions, right? It's not going to come from any kind of political party outside of the kind of the fringe parties. None of the main political parties are going to have the rights of the disabled fully at the forefront, lest they fall into the press-driven scrounger narrative that we will obviously get to later on. But RMT have been tweeting out loads of pictures of closed ticket offices, closed kiosks and things like that to be able to pick tickets up. And of course, if you have automated barriers like this, very difficult to be able to get through unless you've actually got the physical ticket.
Ticket machine or an app on a smartphone just isn't possible for everyone. Vijay is a disability rights campaigner. He uses the trains almost daily. Do you find it easier to use a ticket office or a machine?
Yeah, I find it really easier to use a ticket office because I'm able to talk to the person face to face, and it makes it easier for me to be able to buy the right train ticket that I need to go to.
When they make decisions, are they thinking about us?
I don't think they're thinking about us people with a learning disability, and I think that's wrong. They need to include us in every decision that they make, especially
And that's the issue with neoliberal politics. When everything is boiled down to what is the most profitable, what affects the bottom line, what can we marketize, all of these kind of social utilities that are necessary for everybody in society to be able to create some level of equity, it all falls by the wayside. It completely falls by the wayside because, there's no profit in being more accommodating to the disabled on a kind of large scale on these kind of things, right? You go adding like disabled ramps onto things, that's fine, like basic stuff so that things can be wheelchair accessible, but the kind of necessary social human interaction that you'd need for people who have the more kind of invisible disabilities, that all goes away if you try and automate everything. If you remove the human contact element from everything, if we turn into this completely kind of only functional profit-driven society, people with special needs just get completely left by the wayside.
Especially with ticket office closures, because it's vital for people with a learning disability like myself that we have to feed them to travel just like everyone else.
Some disabled passengers are launching a legal challenge. They argue the consultation is unlawful as it doesn't give people enough time to respond and discriminates against disabled people. The rail
It's worth pointing out there is a consultation about the ticket office closures, but just like every consultation, it'll get completely ignored by the government. Of course it will. I mean, consultations aren't really representative. As Michael Walker was pointing out on his GB News segment with Lee Anderson, specifically pointing out that with the ULEZ consultation, there was specifically just a bunch of headbangers who didn't really want to have to deal with ULEZ being contacted about this, which meant that it could be disregarded based upon the remainder of the polling around that issue in the area, because that's more representative as a representative sample. The government can use that same rhetoric to try and ignore a consultation around ticket office closures when there is no justification for doing so, when the majority of the public, they don't want the ticket offices to close either. There's a bunch of small number of people, a bunch of technocrats, like neoliberal technocrats, who are just like, well, no, we have to modernize everything, right? We have to ensure that everything is at maximum efficiency the whole time, even if people get left by the wayside. But they're really a minority. When you look at the kind of pushback to this ticket office closures, the vast majority of the UK public are indeed in support currently.
delivery group, which is carrying out the consultation, denies that. Do you think closing ticket offices will take away disabled and elderly people's independence?
It's absolutely not looking to do that. This is about changing the way that we're...
It's not looking to do that. It will do that, though, because they don't care, right? This isn't some kind of deliberate plot by RDG and the government to try and ruin the lives of disabled people, as we were pointing out earlier on stream. Just like the ways in which all of these kind of poor and disabled people, their lives were taken away by austerity. This wasn't a deliberate desire to try and deperson and expunge these people from existence. It was just the result of policy that doesn't take these people into account. And so Jacqueline Starr here saying, well, no, there's no aim for us to do this. It will do this, of course, but we're not aiming to do that. But of course, there's only one thing these people care about. One thing. It's their fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to generate as much profit as possible, to continue to grow, to continue to create as big a dividends as possible. And incorporating the needs of disabled and elderly people into those figures, right? If you lose disabled and elderly people's custom, but you save more money than that, than you lost by their lack of custom through closing the ticket offices, by not having to pay the workers, you will do that, because that's all you care about. That is all capitalist companies care about, and that is driving money, driving revenue for shareholders. The wider societal needs, they're not even taken into account.
Selling tickets, but the shift in having representation from behind the glass screen to bringing people out on the platform, we really feel will help people.
What happens to passengers who need support buying tickets?
Across the network as a whole, there will be people available on the platform to support passengers needing assistance. There'll be handheld devices to aid the purchase of tickets in some cases, but also where people are needing help to navigate the ticket vending machine. Perhaps it might be the first time for some people that they've used that, then that help will be available.
But for wheelchair users like Chris, train travel requires assistance from staff and often before the ticket barriers.
If they shut down the ticket offices for the rail stations all over the country, it would be horrendous, because like for disabled people and those who need, and the elderly and so forth, how are they going to get the ticket? What they're going to do? They're going to stay in and stay at home, which is not right. It's not right in this modern day.
The consultation runs until Wednesday. Ultimately, the decision to close the ticket offices will be down to the government. The question is whether the outcome of the consultation will still allow disabled people to live their best lives and ensure travel remains open and accessible to all. This is Ruben Whiter reporting for Channel 4 News.
That's an interesting segment. I like the presenter they got in there. It was good that they had disabled people talking about their own lives, disabled people talking about their own experiences, disabled people actually interacting with this, rather than, I don't know, as a trans person, I would know when people will discuss our lives in public and discuss the effects of policy on us, we never get included in the discussion. So it's good that Channel 4 deliberately managed to find someone who was disabled to be able to talk about this issue. So yeah, and I think that they made a lot of excellent points in the little segment that we watched there about the independence of disabled people being necessary. And there's a difference between everyone else who goes up to a ticket kiosk to try and actually buy the tickets and get the advice that they need there, rather than continually having to flag down certain members of staff to come and help them use a ticket machine. That's a different kind of situation they would be in, and you can't guarantee there's going to be somebody there, right? I know RDG have just been on there saying, well, there will always be someone there to help you with the ticket machine. I don't buy that argument for a second, given the amount of actual staff redundancies that they want to push through as part of this deal that they've got going with the RMT. Again, the fact that it's RDG in league with the government trying to push this through just shows you it's a deliberate policy, not just something that completely forgets about the needs of the disabled and the elderly, but one that's being done specifically to spite the RMT members to try and force through unnecessary redundancies. And to illustrate the necessity of there being some kind of assistance on the platform, a disabled campaigner, a wheelchair user, was discussing and did a video about what it's like to try and actually get help and assistance on these stations, and did a video about it that she posted on Twitter, which is worth watching as well. So let's watch this too.
I'm trying to get a train. I obviously need a manual boarding ramp to get on the train, so I need to speak to someone. Doesn't look like anyone's here, / I can't get anyone. Hello? 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 Hello?
Yes.
Can I get the ramp, please?
Where are you going?
I'm going to Haringey. Did you hear me before?
No, no.
Don't think I'm going to make this train.
You see what I mean, right? What we've heard from the rail delivery group representative already today, specifically saying, well, there's going to be people on the platform, they'll be able to help you, right? Well, there you go. Even if there's someone on the platform, getting their attention, ensuring that they're going to be there is already something that's you may not even have access to. It's clearly going to be, there's going to be people falling through the cracks, which wouldn't be there if you just actually had the ticket offices open. And she even points this out early and later on here as well, right? If ticket offices close, this would be a worsening of an already bad situation. It is already so difficult to turn up at a station and get the assistance you need. Moving staff out of the designated place they are supposed to be will make this 1,000 times harder. To clarify, this was an overground station which aren't at risk of closure in the current proposals yet, but it's very much the same situation across mainline rail, opposed to closures now. Let's watch the rest of the video.
There you go.
All right.
13:38 the next one.
Sorry?
13:58.
Is that the one in 2 minutes?
No, that's one in 15 minutes.
15 minutes. So I can't make the one that's now.
There is no one there.
For future reference, how do I get your attention?
Bang on the window.
I can't reach. I'm a wheelchair user.
Yeah. Well, normally I'll come round to the front.
Yeah, but I was there. I was there saying hi, hello, hello.
Really?
I need to, yeah.
Then I apologise, I didn't see you. So
Okay.
I might be doing something to eat, to be honest with you.
Doing something what?
And even then, right, I'm not going to blame this particular employee, because clearly the situation wasn't in perfect place when you've got the assistance area that they will stay in, right? It's a station that is open to the elements. It's not got a roof or anything. So if you're going to be sitting around, standing around all day, waiting for people to be able to assist at this particular station, you're probably going to be indoors most of the time. It's not his fault that the station has been set up in such a ridiculous manner that a wheelchair user can't actually bang on the glass and you can't hear them when they're asking you for help at the same time. So I'm not going to blame him for this.
Going to eat.
Okay. This is my train that I won't be getting on. I'll just watch it go. Bye.
And so that's a really important point that she's made about the necessity of accessibility, and which is something that already disproves the kind of points that we got from this RGG representative from the original video that we watched from Channel 4. Now, this is all perfect, and I think you should go and you should sign the petition against the ticket closures. You should support the RMT, because the RMT are going to be pushing back against this too. And it just shows you, as I said before, that if you want there to be proper representation for minority voices, the trade union movement is where it's going to come from, because the political parties do not see the disabled people as being a kind of the swing constituency vote. They're not going to try and court your vote by being pro-disabled, whereas the unions are going to support you as a people's movement, as a collective movement. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider liking and subscribing. It does help out the channel and the algorithm. And if you click the bell notification icon, it will let you know when I go live and when I upload videos. If you'd like to follow me on social media, my handle is @NoJusticeMTG, and that is Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. If you want to support my channel in a more financial manner, you can do so by becoming a member for just 99p, by super chatting, or by supporting me on Patreon, with the link is in the description of this video, and hopefully I'll catch you on the next segment.